Hi, I'm Mike.
Hello, I'm Chris.
And I'm Steve, and we are planning to redirect ourselves as we're planning for our retirement.
Welcome to the ReDirect podcast. We appreciate you joining us and listening to our conversation about finding your purpose in retirement. Hey, Adam and Dale, it's another great day on the ReDirect podcast. And are you guys ready to make a difference today?
Every day for me is like another adventure. I mean, I'm one of those goofy guys that get up and goes, we got an adventure today. What's it going to be?
I am thriving, brother. I appreciate getting to talk with you guys. So if you remember a few episodes ago, way back in the early episodes, we talked about the 5 stages of retirement. And one of those specifically was that first stage of pre-retirement. And we've got a couple of guests in today. They're going to talk with us through that, what their process of pre-retirement looks like. Those guests are part of the ReDirect experience. The big umbrella of ReDirect U has the ReDirect podcast, and also has the ReDirect experience, which is a small group of people hosted live and in person with Curt, and it talks through a whole bunch of different things. Now, I'm trying to get Curt to broaden the sphere of the ReDirect experience and the ReDirect U umbrella to include ReDirect Adventures and start the ReDirect Cruise series.
I can see it now. Yeah. Going down the Ohio River on a paddle boat, and we're talking about how we redirect ourselves. It's just incredible.
Is this by any chance a bike and barge?
Yeah, it's biking through the Mediterranean. That's what we're doing. I mean, I'm thinking big here, guys. Let's go for it.
Yeah, we need a couple of sponsors first.
Yeah. Well, so if you'd like to sponsor us and join us on the ReDirect Adventure Series, info at redirect-u.com.
But Adam, if I could jump in a little bit about the experience component of what we do at ReDirect U, that's really sort of how it all started. If you recall, going back to origin story, it's like I was just going to be working with a person one at a time. And then Dale came up with the idea, no, we need to do a podcast. But I still love the opportunity to sit one-on-one with people. And we were very fortunate to have this group and these men here. And there's one gentleman that's not with us today. That's Carl Weirs. And he couldn't make it. But I found it was really enjoyable for me to be a part of it. I'm looking to hopefully have more experiences like this. And yes, in person is really, really great, but I don't want to limit it to that. So if there's opportunities where people are out there and they want to consider this, we can consider a virtual one. That makes it still personal to a degree.
Yeah, it's inevitable.
Yeah,
it's gonna happen.
Yeah. But I'm looking forward to having today's conversation and hearing from you guys and where you are, where you were, and all that kind of stuff.
So today's friends of the ReDirect podcast are Mike Amen, Chris Bader, and Steve Lindner. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good to be here.
So as we get started, I want to talk a little bit about 3 things. Like, what are you doing now? When are you thinking about retiring? And then what was your motivation for joining the ReDirect experience?
I'm 61, had always envisioned going to 65 or 67. And yet when you disrupted my life with ReDirect, it was the opportunity that, really we can redirect ourselves towards the Lord at any time. And really making Christ the center is an opportunity that we have always, but it really put in front of my face, okay, you've done the task of raising kids and launching them. So in that sense, it's been invigorating to do this. But I'm in IT sales, have been my whole career, working for a company now that just been purchased. So navigating that, but it's been great for my family to do that. I was at Cincinnati Bell for 22 years and got approached by somebody from Cisco Systems to do something different. Wasn't on my mind, but learned disruption and change. There can be tremendous growth. So I'm energized by the opportunity. What drew me to it was you guys, your enthusiasm for it. And I think it's produced in us a great tool to talk through, with my wife, what this means and what it looks like. So I'm grateful for all the steps you guys have put in place and energized by the content that you're producing.
Chris, how about you?
So I just celebrated my 35th year working with a large Cincinnati-based company, working on global supply chain. I get to solve problems. I get to manage projects, and it's just been a great company. I've really enjoyed that. I've gotten to the point, though, where I'm ready for something different. I want to spend my time doing other things that I also enjoy. And so I'm going to retire at the end of September this year. And, my motivation for getting involved with this was initially it was, I can't wait to go spend time doing my hobbies and going out and doing everything that I enjoy, whether it's biking, fixing bikes, brewing beer, whatever it is. But then I heard the words purposeful and intention. And I wanted to know more about that because I wanted to explore what is it to be intentional about doing what I'm doing or what I want to do. So that's why I've gotten involved in ReDirect You and the experience. And so I've been getting a lot out of that.
That's cool. How about you, Steve?
I'm in my 43rd year of working a real job after college. The last 26 years, I've been the senior managing director of HR for Johnson Investment Counsel, and we're a locally owned and run wealth management firm, and we do holistic financial planning for clients. And it's been a really, really wonderful place to be. I've been really, really blessed. And prior to that, my career was in the shoe industry. I worked for a local company here called U.S. Shoe Corporation, and also worked in North Carolina for Converse, the athletic shoe company. And so back in the days of U.S. Shoe, my wife loved the job there because I would travel our factories, and the plant managers would give me samples for her to wear and give feedback on new sock linings or new leather materials or whatever. And so she became the Imelda Marcos of our neighborhood. But I've really been blessed with great careers, but there's no more thinking about retirement. I've set the date and I'm jumping in. So
Steve actually has a clock on his desk.
I do. 284 days as of today.
Wow.
And that's not because I'm excited to get out of there, because I've really loved what I do, but more and more at peace. And part of it's been this process of ready to see what God's got in store for the next phase of my life. So I think, for me, I'll be 65 in a couple of weeks. And I'm a connectedness type of person, and I love relationships, and that's going to be important for me as I get into retirement. And so meeting you all has just been wonderful, and be able to explore this has been good.
We had the opportunity, if you recall, Adam and Dale, that at this Thursday morning study, I stood up in front of the group and gave sort of my story in the last 4 years, which was basically what I was dealing with in the development of ReDirect.
Yeah, the precursor leading up to the ReDirect experience.
Exactly. And as a result of that, after that I gave that little talk, these guys came up and reached out to me and said, hey, I really would like to sit down with you and talk more about this. And then as a result of that came the creation of the experience.
I think the fascinating thing about this entire process is the fact that ReDirect You will continue to grow in some way, shape, or fashion. We're looking at this as a big field by which to grow new experiences. And wow, where do you take it from here? Do we start more groups? Do we start going on, travel adventures? What you guys are talking about, making a decision to retire. I would love to know, is it hard? Is it really easy?
For me, it was a little hard to think about that, because when I retire, I'll be 59. That's a lot earlier than I even originally thought I was going to retire. But I got to the point where I wanted the opportunity to spend time doing other things that I enjoy. And we realized that we were able to make that choice. And so we're going for it in end of September.
So let's unpack that for a second. So you're going at it early.
Yes.
And it sounds like, I'm just based on your tone and your expression, you're pretty excited about it. Give us a gauge on how nervous you were leading up to actually pulling the trigger, and how at peace have you been since making that decision?
I was nervous at first. I mean, we both were, because, again, retiring a little bit earlier than what is normal.
Yeah, you're leaving money on the table.
I am. But it also gives me and my wife more time to spend time together doing the things we enjoy. And so that's something that we're really, really looking forward to.
And maybe that's, obviously to you, that's worth more than the money on the table.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Very cool.
You know what's exciting about this, Dale? this is right up Adam's wheelhouse because we've already retired. I think he's going to get a lot from these guys.
Getting excited. You see his eyes. His eyes are getting really big.
Yeah, Chris made the comment 59. Adam, you're 54.
Yeah.
Oh, this is closer than you think.
Yeah. Maybe it's not 15 or 18 now. How about you, Mike or Steve? How about what was that process like leading up to making the call?
So I'm 61, and I wasn't thinking about it at all.
Mm-hmm.
Really, like I'm not locked in on, hey, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing until I'm 65. I'm willing to be open to being redirected to something else, and that's what I appreciate about this process. Is just there's some foundational things that you guys have laid out that I think are very valuable. I mean, certainly health, nutrition, all that.
So Adam, what I've heard from Mike personally about this is that the redirect experience for him wasn't necessarily the aspect of making the decision to retire, even though that's in the future. He's using a lot of the stuff that we've talked about as a group in energizing him of where he currently is in his work situation. Is that right? Is that a good summary there, Mike?
It is, because I think, just specifically, as we went through this exercise, a lot of these things feel great, but I've neglected my health. I hired a personal trainer as a result of this process. So really, I've run 7 marathons, but I've neglected my health of late and realized all these great plans can go by the wayside if you have a health issue. So that's what I appreciate about the process is that there's an awareness that's raised that there is more things that are available. I don't know what they are. I want to be open to them.
The end of your career is not the end of you.
Yes. Yeah. And doing what I'm doing until 65 or 67 isn't the only option. Right now it's what I plan to do, but I want to be open to something else.
So our tagline to the podcast and the organization at large is finding purpose in retirement. And purpose, I think we've toyed with the definition of that as being finding meaning in what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
That purpose doesn't have to be this big tombstone 30-year out kind of goal that I'm reaching for. It can be finding meaning and usefulness in what I'm doing today.
Yeah.
And why am I doing it?
I think that aligns, and it's also, and I think I mentioned this to Curt, I don't need to wait until I retire to implement, some of these things that are more aligned with purpose.
That's really cool. How about you, Steve?
Yeah, I so probably was more intentional and purposeful as far as when I was going to retire. At our work, we do ask our senior management to give a couple of years, if possible, for succession purposes, and so setting the date and making that decision, I've really been at peace with that. So I'm looking forward to it. This process has been really helpful to be able to think about that purpose and putting more thought and intention into what that looks like. And honestly, yeah, am I scared a little bit? Sure. My identity for the last 43 years has been in work. And I've been fortunate to get a lot of good feedback over that period of time and be able to make an impact in the places that I've been. And so that's fed me for a long, long time. And so what's going to replace that? I don't know. That's part of this exploration process. And I don't think I'm going to get quite the accolades from Barb as maybe I get from my coworkers all the time. But.
Guys, this might be a good chance to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Hey there. If you're enjoying this episode, we've got a small favor to ask. Actually, it's a big favor. Take a moment to like and share this podcast with your friends and family. Then follow the ReDirect podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It's quick, it's free, and it helps us keep bringing you great content every week. And if you really want to make a difference, drop us a 5-star review. Those reviews help us spread the word and keep this community growing. So hit that follow button, share with a friend, and let us know what you think. We appreciate you more than you know. Now let's get back at it. I think it's fascinating that how much of our life really we see as our career, and we make that decision. One of the great things about ReDirect in my mind has been the fact that I really took the step back to see what made me successful in my career that I'm bringing forward into my redirection, because that's kind of the redirect. I would love to have each of you guys think back on just what is it that you're going to bring forward? What is that special gift that you have that you're going to be bringing into your retirement when you kind of think about what made you successful at work?
Yeah, I'll stay on. I think for me, part of it in the word in the book was connectedness and so in relationships, and that's really, really important to me. So as I've started to go through lists and planning in this process, I want to be intentional about connecting with people that I care about and stay in contact with now, but also people from my past. The other is my family. My mom, you guys know, my mom passed away in December, and she was the hub. She was the reason people came to Cincinnati in our family. And there's not going to be that draw anymore. So if I want to see my brother and my nieces and nephews, and it's going to be us traveling. And so that's going to be part of what we're going to do is spend some time going and visiting a family.
Chris, how about you?
I want to bring forward some my sincerity and my tenacity in my retirement, my redirection. So how I go about doing what I want to do and creating change with that, because I've been managing change at work. So how will my activities, my hobbies like brewing beer or fixing bikes, how will that have purpose, and how do I carry that forward to serve others? When I started thinking about retirement, it was just, hey, I'm going to go do all this great stuff and I'm just going to go do it. But now when we start talking about purpose and intention, it's how am I going to go about doing that in a way that invites others in, invites God into it, and be able to see that through with the tenacity and just the sincerity in being around people and serving people, inviting them into what I'm doing.
Chris, if you need people to taste your beer, I'm willing to do that in retirement whenever you need me to.
Yeah,
And don't forget, my last name is Brewer. So if you need any real good advice, talk to Steve. But I love what you're talking about there. And when I've talked with other people that have a passion thing, they say like, oh, I just can't wait to go fish. Well, great. Well, if you end up just going fishing by yourself, that could be fun. But that guy could think, but I'm going to do it with some guys that I used to hang out with, or some new guys or new friends that I can fish with. Now that takes fishing to a whole new level, as opposed to just an independent activity that because that's what you wanted to do. So I like what you're talking about there.
And that's the relationship piece that Steve was talking about too, is using some of those habits, those hobbies, those interests to bring that with those things you're bringing from your career, those things you were good at. If you think you have a tenacity you're bringing forward, does that mean you went at your career like that? You were somewhat of a go-getter, you were a hustler, you were making things happen in your career?
Yes, I was. Creating change, changing processes, took a lot of tenacity to see things through so that they would work and that they would last, that there was a lasting effect from that change.
Yeah, I'd say in enterprise sales, connecting people, collaborating, and co-creating, and then completing. Those are the three focuses that I try to really keep in front of me. And I think God has blessed me with this connection ability, and it's not just people, but it's usually at 2 a.m. because I can't sleep anymore. But I've redirected that time to be, I can't sleep again, to, okay, Lord, what do you have for me? And it's blown me away with, they can be work things, they can be relationship things, they can be family things, but just connections that are made in the middle of the night. And, I'm a pen and paper guy, so I get up and I just write stuff down, and they can be little things, they can be big things, but it's redirected that time of frustration to be, okay, this is my time when God's going to connect with me and kind of guide me in different directions. So that's real important. Then collaborating in enterprise sales. I mean, my team is providing solutions, so it's complex, and nobody has all the answers. There's someone that's collaborative and building something. So what I would love to be open to is like, are those skills useful? I think I thrive on focus. I'm better at one thing at a time. So even in being redirected, I think the platform you've laid out around, hey, you got to have joy. You got to be doing fun things. You got to take care of your body. You got to build the relationships. I needed that to say, you're not really going to be doing any good if if any of these aspects fall apart.
I dig that a lot. It's been my experience in life that I found myself doing things I didn't anticipate doing, usually in a very positive way. And I found myself having a skill, a habit, a physical tool, some kind of attribute that I brought along with me that uniquely equipped me for the opportunity in front of me. And I think that's the providence, that's the work of God in people's lives that follow him, that you find yourself in places where you can use skills that kind of only you have. And it's this convergence of unique skill set and attributes and the need and the opportunity. Mm-hmm. And that inflection or convergence point is the providence of God. So those things that you have experienced in your career that probably make you very good at your job, how can I use those things? Personally, I don't think you have to seek those things out. They will happen to you because God had you for the cause that's coming to you.
Yeah, I think that's another Jerryism is, be open, don't force it, but be diligent. And that is how I'm looking at this time, is just being open to what's next and not forcing, because that's generally what I do, is try to force, this is the thing I want to do, so I'm going to go try to make it happen.
So we've been talking a little bit about what you guys are going to bring forward. And a lot of you, it's very relational. It's about people. And do you think about the people that all of a sudden you're not going to be seeing on a daily basis when you think about moving into your redirected life? How do you think about those relationships that you've developed for years in your work life?
I'd say realistically, it's going to be a small handful. And I've got a lot of relationships with people that I've worked with the last 26 years at Johnson. But I think the reality is, most of those relationships have been about being in the office and interacting with them on a daily basis. There's a handful that I know will be intentional about. We do have a retiree group that gets together once a month. I'm in that group now. It's a great way to connect with them. So I'll continue to do that. I look back to my U.S. shoe days. I've got 3 people that are good friends of mine that we stay in contact with and get together with on a regular basis. And so that's kind of the model that I think probably realistically is going to happen. And there's going to be some grief with that, with people that I really enjoy being around, but realistically probably not going to have a real deep relationship with after this.
I think for me, there is a small group of people from Cintas where I work that we started a staff meeting at a local bar after work once a month.
The office.
And at the time, we were all working. And we'd show up at the bar, still in our suit and tie. There's probably about 6 of us. And I am the last one still wearing a tie when we show up there. But this is going to continue. That staff meeting, it might become a board meeting after I retire. I don't know. But we're going to continue that because one of those people hired me over 35 years ago. And so we have some great friendships. A couple of those guys we try to meet every Friday for Skyline. So those relationships are definitely going to continue. We've developed some good rhythms, and so that will absolutely continue. And it's going to be hard, though, to leave all the other people that I work with, because I've worked with people for a very long time in one company. And I've got some great friendships, some great relationships, and it's going to be hard to say goodbye to them. I really enjoy working with them. That's part of redirecting and moving on.
I like the point that you're being deliberate.
Yes.
And is in setting up something so that you can make sure that those things continue on in your life as well as for them, because I think they're going to be excited about that too. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say, and I like the way Steve framed it, my Cincinnati Bell days, I am connected with a few people there, and it is relationship, but it is a much smaller number. The work is what brought us together. So when the work's gone, it definitely reduces that. And I do think COVID has been, I'm 100% remote right now. It's very unusual. I feel for the young people that are early in career, others. The relationships I have 100% remote environment are just very different than the ones in person. I've had some people early in career that I never thanked, and I am in this process of thanking them for 20 years later on, just how they built into me. So I hope to be doing that for young people as well.
Curt and I've talked about this so much about, you think when you're 30, 40 years in an industry, in a market. I have one association I've been part of for 25 years, and I've been invited to go back to that association show. And these people are as close to family as I've had in 20, 25 years. Boy, it's going to be powerful showing up next week and a half from now in Austin, Texas, to see, 300-400 people that I've been seeing since the year 2000. And I'm redirecting, i.e. probably not going to be there anymore. Last year I won the Life Service Achievement Award for this association. And this year I get to hand it. It's kind of like the green jacket. I get to hand it off to the next person that's going to win this award. Which is going to be cool, but it's going to be a bit of a sayonara.
I'd like to change engines a little bit and just sort of talk about the redirect experience process. As I think Steve mentioned, we did follow a book, and it's called Your Retirement Quest. Not necessarily making it a book study, but it was sort of a reference that we sort of used as a guideline in order to evoke and create conversation. I would like to throw it to you guys because I'd like to hear from you, and even Dale was sitting in on these sessions as well, to talk about the experience that you went through in the redirect experience. What are some of the golden nuggets, not only with the book, but then how we're also starting to develop our plan?
I found using the book and doing it with you guys to be really, really valuable. But there are two things that kind of popped in my mind when you asked that question. One is there was a chapter on freedom. I've been so used to going into work and 8 to 6 every day, Monday through Friday. That's been locked in for me. The realization that all is now going to be free time, that I get to choose how I want to spend that. I was talking to my daughter about this, and she goes, "Well, that's kind of obvious, Dad." And I'm like, "Well, it wasn't to me after working for so long." But that is really exciting and a little daunting. So that was really helpful, using that and through that process. And the other exercise is going through the stages of well-being, and where am I on those, and what am I going to do to make sure I'm taking care of my physical well-being and my emotional well-being and my mental well-being and purpose. And that was all stimulated through this experience and through the book. And most of those I feel pretty good about. There's a couple I've got to work on. I kind of shared with you guys the mental stimulation. I've gotten a lot of that from work over the years, and what's going to replace that. And I'm not a crossword guy, but there may be some opportunities that have been presented that I'm starting to explore because of going through this process.
You may have to manage a golf league and deal with handicaps and, creating games that could stimulate you.
I could do that. Yes. And rate beer. I could do that.
We've taken your name down, by the way. You didn't know that, but you are now on to do that.
Some of the value that I've gotten out of the redirect experience is, one, talking about the different phases of retirement. I'm still in the pre-planning and looking forward to the honeymoon. And I was thinking, hey, the whole retirement's going to be a honeymoon. But realizing that life happens and things are going to change, I may need to make adjustments or pivot, and that's just a normal part of life, whether it's retirement or not. I mean, it happens in work too, like we've talked about. And so understanding that there are these phases, they are normal. I'm now more prepared because I have more of an expectation of what can happen. And so that's been very helpful. As Steve mentioned too, the mental stimulation, intellectual achievements or stimulation, being intentional about doing that. Work has afforded great opportunities for me in that aspect. Not all of my hobbies or activities may provide that. So I've learned about resources where I can do some lifelong learning. I can now be intentional about pursuing something where I get to learn something new or go deeper in something that I already know.
Yeah, for me, the exercise of putting pen to paper and writing down a plan, which was, I think I'm on version 12 already, but the real helpful thing was sharing it with my wife. I had always said, look, I'm going to 65 or 67, and felt that, I don't want to say irritated her, but was upset about that, thought that didn't have to be the case, and really learned through sharing this her desire is just boundaries. Just, hey, shut it down at some time. When we're on vacation, if you could not be available and taking calls. So there is no issue. The issue that I had is, oh my gosh, she's disappointed that I'm not set on doing this right away. But it was really more around boundaries. So I think just sparking a conversation, again, it's convicted me on some things with nutrition and with personal training that I can do now that don't need to wait later. So I think it's really creating sense of urgency around, hey, there's some things that you do now are going to really help you, I think, immediately, but also long-term that I've appreciated.
I love how you went over it with your wife, because it does involve both of you. That's a whole other podcast. Thank you so much for all the comments there. What advice would you give to people thinking about this coming up?
Yeah, I think just start the process. It creates its own energy. Like, I can't say that I was enthusiastic about this initially, but there was a prodding that took place around redirection. As we went through the process, it created energy around, hey, this is something to plan, prepare for, look forward to, celebrate. And when you add some structure, thought, prayer, dialogue to it, it creates energy that I think is really positive.
And what I would add to that is it's not too early to start. Like Mike, like you've mentioned, you're using this to help while you're still working. It's just how to get the most out of life, again, with purpose and intention. So it's not too early to start. Be intentional about how you want to spend your time, your energy, the resources you've been gifted, because we all have a purpose for being here. And talk with others. You're not in this alone. Being able to talk with others, learn from others, has been incredibly valuable for me, and I encourage others to do that too.
Yeah, I echo what Mike and Chris have said. I think the other piece is don't be too hard on yourself and think that you got to have it all figured out. One of the bits of nuggets of wisdom in one of our sessions was you can choose to start something, and if it doesn't work out, you can decide to drop it and do something else. And I haven't had those options necessarily at work. And so that's refreshing to be able to think about. And I think the other thing for me in this group and being able to process that and meet and talk about your experiences and what you're going through and all that's been wonderful. And I would encourage people to use this experience to share that and learn from other people that are getting ready to go through the process.
I think I'd love to underline work in progress. It's not going to all come together right away in a beautiful, neatly bow-tied package, but it's a continuing work in progress. And that's what I got out of our experience sessions when we all got together. We all were at different places, all unique circumstances, not one size fits all. This is really about you personally. From my standpoint, bringing forward what made you successful and utilizing that in development of your plan that's going to change a lot.
I'm sort of sad that Carl isn't here with us. He had to work today, so that's why he couldn't make it in for this recording session. But we have to have Carl on because he brings another dimension to this group in the sense that, yes, he is going to be leaving his career of being a teacher for a number of years. So we may have to get Carl on here and have his own little segment.
Yeah, Carl's a cool dude.
Yeah.
My last question is, how much do you think we should charge for the ReDirect adventure for the Mediterranean cruise?
Drinks included, all-inclusive, or no?
Something worth considering. Yes. So info@redirect-u.com if you're interested in the ReDirect Adventure series. And thanks for joining the ReDirect podcast. We want to thank the University of Cincinnati 1819 Innovation Hub for allowing us to use the eSports recording studio to record our podcast. Want more information on how to redirect your purpose in retirement? Check out the ReDirect U website at redirect-u.com. Do you have something you want to share? Do you have a question about your redirect strategy? Please email us at info@redirect-u.com. We would like to hear from you. Check out the latest ReDirect podcast episode, as well as see all the ReDirect episodes on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Remember, there is purpose in your life, so find it and go do something about it.